Welcome to the Off the Grid podcast, episode 7. I think it's 7, yes. With me today is not Cam, it's not Brandon, but it's my wonderful mother. She filmed the food tier list episode, but we decided to bring her on because we're gonna be talking about a kind of serious and more deep topic, and we'll get to that in a bit, but maybe you can kind of tell from our shirts if you want to look at those. That kind of gives you a hint on what we're going to talk about. But first, we're going to go to a lighter topic. I decided to create my own segment because we used to have Cam's work stories, but then that didn't happen every week. So I was like, you know what? I'll think of a segment for my own, and then we'll input that so that it's an every week thing, so that you guys can kind of have, maybe an expectation on, what to expect to see every week. So my segment, it's a work in progress. It's called Why Does This Exist? It's where I look through a lot of things in the world, whether it be a TV show, a movie, something someone says, maybe an outfit. Maybe we go and look at back in the 80s what they wore, because there's a lot of interesting outfits that they wore back then. I mean, what was popular back then?
Neon colors.
Neon. Yeah, was like the
hairstyle would be like up.
Was it the
like
up straight?
Up. Wasn't really up straight, but it was high and it was out puffy.
Yeah.
And out.
It's like fluffy.
It's not so much as it is now.
Yeah. But yeah, there was a lot of interesting. There's been a lot of interesting things over the years, so there's definitely a lot to talk about. But this week, we're gonna be talking about reality TV shows. Now, I know a lot of you watch them. You have the big ones like The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, all those. You have Housewives, just like Atlanta, Beverly Hills, I think.
You also have Big Brother.
Big Brother is another one. There's also
Survivor.
There's Survivor. There's a couple. Well, there's one that we'll talk about. It's a pretty funny one though. It's one that my brother loves to watch. But there's stuff like Cops, On Patrol Live is one of them, and it's kind of like the Cops reality show. But those I kind of, like more because it's not really scripted. It's more of just in the moment types of thing, because you can't script someone like having a weapon and like trying to attack the cops. You can't really script that.
Or whatever the cops interact with throughout their time of those hours that they're on duty.
Yeah, and like stuff they say, stuff they interact with, the people they interact with, stuff like that. So there are some good reality shows out there, but for the majority of them, I'm not too much a fan of them. I prefer more of the comedy or like kind of, I don't know, like comedy shows or like maybe action shows, stuff like that. I'm more of like the kind of scripted, in a sense, the scripted shows. Reality shows can be good, like there's a few good ones, but for the majority I'm not too much a fan of, although I haven't seen a lot of them. But I'll get into one right here. It's called My 600-Pound Life. And essentially this is, what you can expect. It's about, like kind of a documentary in a sense of people following someone who is 600 or more pounds. And it's a real thing. And it's an interesting show. It's very weird, when you find out like how they live their life, how they came to be that large. And so I'll kind of give like a rundown of what kind of this show is. So it starts off bad for a little bit, and it talks about like their bad habits and how they came to be 600 plus pounds.
So what were some of their bad habits?
So like eating a lot, is like a big one.
But they were making unhealthy choices of what they were eating and putting in their bodies.
Or like stuff high in maybe sugar or.
But sometimes when you look back in it and you realize the addiction of sugar.
Yeah.
It can be very addicting.
Yeah.
But it also can be eating. People tend to look towards food for comfort because of something that they're going through mentally or emotionally. They try to hide behind food and the choices that they're making. They're not really thinking of. They're just thinking of what's going to comfort them at the moment.
Yeah, or maybe some traumatic thing that happened.
Yeah.
That that came up, and maybe like they had a parent die or
a tragedy, some sort of
tragedy, and they try to kind of ease the pain with eating. Mm-hmm. A lot of people do it with drinking or smoking. Those are two big ones, but eating is up there as well.
Right.
Eating, I feel like the most common thing is people go and drink their sorrows away. That's like the most common, but eating is also something that people would do, and that's like one of the reasons why people are 600 plus pounds in these shows.
Don't you think that though the people that are with them, like their family members, they're not going to really pick up on someone hiding behind food to eat as much as they would if they were to become using other substances as their way of hiding their emotional distress or emotional brokenness.
Yeah.
Sometimes people will not recognize the food part as quickly as they would other substances that they've used.
Yeah.
Because people eat all the time, and there are people that enjoy eating. There's people that enjoy the socialization that comes with eating. But sometimes by the time that they get to the realization and understanding that, hey, I have a family member who's they're not doing too good, and I notice they're not making healthy choices. Maybe something deeper is going on.
Yeah. It's recording, right? All right, just making sure so that, because there was one time where, like a couple weeks ago or something, or like a few episodes ago, where I forgot to hit the record button on the sound.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
So we had to do like 3 takes, and it was a nightmare to deal with. But I mean, it didn't take long. We didn't get into into it for like 20-30 minutes and then realize. So that's good, and that's kind of why I asked the person who's kind of being our cameraman at the moment to let me know if we're filming. So then I'll get back to this. So what happens is, they talk about their family life, who cares for these people, like whether it's a nurse or a family member, and then they talk about that, what they go through in their day-to-day life, and then every episode they go to see the doctors because they want to like change their life and lose all that weight. And it's funny that like every episode they then like have to try to fit in the car because they don't go out much.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're just sitting and eating, gaining weight. So it's always interesting every time to see them like try to get in the car and then go to the doctors, because I think they have to like move the seats up or something, or they gotta do something to.
So they have to adjust their seating so they're able to get themselves comfortably into the car.
Yeah. And then what happens is they get weighed at the doctor's, and apparently every time they're always surprised. They're always like, "Oh man, I really let myself go."
Well, because it's almost like a reality check. When you get on that scale, you can't deny the numbers that are showing up.
Yeah.
So
you've
so when you're not on that scale, you don't think of how the food that you're taking in is affecting your body and how your body is absorbing it until you get to that scale.
Yeah. And then it's like, wow, I ate that much? Because it's like in your mind that you have to keep eating and keep drowning out the sorrow or whatever you're feeling, and then down the road you're just like, wow.
So do they talk on the show? Do they talk about what triggers, like some of the triggers that some of these people might have that sets them off to want to eat, go into comfort, that brings up the emotional part that they're trying to avoid? Is there?
Kinda like
do
the
they
root.
talk about what would trigger them emotionally, or?
Like kind of the root cause of it.
Well, like if they're
'Cause they
going on
don't-
there, I'm
'cause
sure
they-
they don't get up in the morning and say, "Gosh, I'm going to eat all this food today."
Well, it's
They
more
try
of,
to do good, and then as the day goes on, there's something that may trigger them, and then they go
I
and
feel like
try
it's
to
more of
escape to the
just. I
food.
feel like it's more of just they've been doing that for so long that when they see food, they're just like, oh, I have to eat that.
So it's a habit
It's like, yeah,
that
it's
they're
like
formed.
a habit, like an instinct where it's just, I have to eat food. And it's
Okay.
ingrained in their mind. And then what happens is the doctor then gives them a goal to lose this much weight in this amount of time. Like one example is like 50 pounds in a week.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. But if you think about it, probably a lot of it has to do with fluids.
Yeah.
That's usually the main thing that you lose at first when you're trying to, monitor your eating.
Yeah.
Because you lose the fluids.
Yeah, and they have to do the surgery. Well, they have to lose the weight before they can do surgery.
And what type of surgery is that?
It's more just like they kind of go in and take out some of the fat, and what's left at the end is like skin.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like flabby skin. And then a little later, they were going for another surgery to cut off the skin.
The loose skin.
Yeah, the loose and excess skin.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can kind of start continuing to lose weight because all the skin is like.
But do they automatically just go and start losing the weight and start, or do they have to go through some therapy through this too?
No. Like, a lot of the people don't meet their goals. A lot of the people don't meet the goal that the doctor sets for them.
And why is that?
Because it's like a habit for them.
But you
And
would
they
think that they would
just-
want to have somebody to help them through by going to see a nutrition on a daily basis,
Yeah.
or
But the thing
going
is,
to
like-
counseling to help them with what's really going on deep within.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's such an addiction that it's hard to get away from it. Like, say you're addicted to drinking or smoking, you can't just quit right away.
Well, do they have like what they do for drinking, or people that are into drinking or drugs or
Yeah,
smoking?
like counseling,
Well, not just counseling, but detox,
detox.
where they go in and then they help them through that by the steps that they have to take. I mean, it's very hard at first because they're going without any type of alcohol or drugs, and they're kind of like cleaning their bodies, trying to get their bodies to clean themselves out.
Yeah. They kind of
like flushing out.
Yeah, they normally have someone who's like their caretaker help them and like stay with them.
Does that caretaker go through, okay, this is, if we're going to reach this goal, we need to take this step, which is basically detoxing your body from all the sugars.
Yeah.
So then you would have where you would go in and kind of flush your body out. Do they have it like they can't have any specific foods that they are used to having that they would have to avoid, and they make changes in their eating? Do they go
Yeah.
through that, like changes in a menu?
Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
do that.
Yeah, they definitely have to like try to stay away from a lot of foods like that are probably like high in fat or could have them gain more weight. So essentially they kind of go on a diet.
Right.
But it's hard at first, and that's why they don't meet their goal at first, is because
Well, it's very challenging. You can't
Yeah.
just go from that habit that you've created and started doing for so long that it's embedded kind of like in your brain of
Yeah.
this is my thought process. You have to go in and you have to kind of like shut that down in a way that you're going to detox your mind as well
Yeah.
as your body. So that way you're able to, that's what I mean where counseling comes in, you get to the root of the cause of it, of why people were hiding, why you're hiding behind the food. And as hard as it is, every step that you take and each day is going to be really challenging emotionally and mentally, because you've tried to avoid those situations for so long, but now you're going to be talking about them, that you take little steps, and even if it's just a little bit at a time, you're like chiseling at um, that wall that you built around that emotional part that you're trying to avoid. And the more that you chisel away and peel away, um, whatever it is that you're going through is the reason why you've turned to food for comfort, is also a step forward in healing.
Yeah.
And for people to understand that, you need to encourage them and reinforce them and say, I'm here with you every step of the way. And as you chisel away, it's also a step on the healing process, and getting you to better understand your mind thought.
Yeah. And then what ends up happening after that, they go back to the doctors to like do a checkup, see how they're doing. Again, most people don't meet their goals, but the doctor then gives them a second chance, because it happens very often. And then after that, most people end up losing the weight.
Mm-hmm.
Most people do. So it's kind of like, it starts off sad, and it starts off like I said, it starts off bad, where it's like, wow, this person's like way overweight. They've like let themselves go. It's sad. And then, but in the end, a lot of them actually do lose the weight.
Well, you try to not look at them as it's an awful situation.
Yeah.
It's a sad situation, but let's not judge the person because of their appearance. Let's try to understand what's going on in their heart.
I mean, I'm not trying to judge.
Right.
I mean, I'm just.
But I'm sure that's what they face every day when
Yeah.
people see them, whether it's in a doctor's office or in the store, or just out in public in general. I'm sure that they already have discomfort to begin with to be out in public. That's why a lot of them stay at home and they try to hide in their home, because the fear of rejection, the fear of judgment.
Yeah.
When people need to actually try to be more compassionate towards them and try to understand. And it's easy for us to say, well, why can't they just eat better? Why can't they just choose eating better? Well, because we don't understand what their life story is. We don't really need to. It's really, unless you're choosing to help them and walk alongside them, you really don't need to know. It's really none of their business, but just to give them that support that we'll walk through this together.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's like, as a show, it's interesting. Yes, it's weird at times, but it's kind of like that show says that no matter what obstacle you have, or no matter what challenge or like struggle you're going through, you can get out of it. There is a way.
Yeah.
And you can work, as long as you work towards it.
Yeah.
Then no matter how hard of it as it is, or how long it might take.
And and try not to look at it as, I mean, it's easy for us to get discouraged when we're doing so well and then we have a setback and we slip. It's normal, and because we're human, we're always going to have that. But it's how we respond to it. Do we say, okay, we had a setback and we slipped? Are we going to get back up and continue to fight to move forward? Or are we just going to hover into that hole that we slipped back into, and just because we're comfortable in there? Well, you're comfortable in it, but it didn't bring you freedom from having the bondage of the food that food has over you, the stronghold that it has over you. And look at all those days that you did do good and you moved forward. You started feeling good. You started feeling better. Then you get back up. And as long as you have people around you to love and support you and say, okay, you had a setback, but let's get back up and let's focus again on our goal And every step, each step, even if it's a little step, you're still taking that step forward. It's better than standing cemented in to the situation that you're in right now.
Then, so that's kind of like basically what that show is about from like beginning to end. It's like 2 hours long for each episode. So, but then I ended up asking my brother a few more questions about, what he thinks of reality shows and stuff. And I asked him, could he go a whole month without watching it? Now, I know that reality shows, they're like once every week. So, of course, a month isn't really the best timeline. A month would just be 4 episodes. If I said like 3 months, that would be something. But he said that after the season's over, he doesn't watch it. He doesn't really watch it at all. Maybe like reruns here and there. But when it's in season, he can't go a week without it. He just can't. And then I asked him.
And why did you ask him why?
No. It's probably because it's with reality TV shows, it's kind of like an addiction, in a sense, where
you
like,
want to see what the end result is, and you want to see what happens next.
Well, like when you're watching a TV show, you want to see what happens next. It's kind of like when you're addicted to a show, it then builds and builds. Even if, like this show, there's different people every week. So it's not always the same story. But
so you might come across a story that you can relate to.
Yeah.
So you want to see what that story is going to be for that week.
Yeah.
Because you know it's a different one, and it could be something that helps you in a way too. So it's not just necessarily helping those who are in the show, but it could also be helping those who are watching it. Because maybe they too are struggling in an area, and there could be someone's story could be a testimony to somebody who may be going through the same thing, or starting to see some of the starts of it.
Yeah, and that's why I asked him does he find any relation to the show, like any part of the show, because if so, that could mean why they're so addicted to it, because they relate to it, because they can connect with it, rather than just some random show that you've never heard of and that you have no connection to or relation, you can't relate to anybody or anything, then you're not really into it. But if you can relate to it, that obviously that's not every show. I mean, some shows that people watch, they don't relate in any way, but they still love watching it. That's different. But when you relate to something, you're more attracted to it, and you dive more deeper into like watching it, and you get more engraved into watching it. And then I asked him how he felt while watching the show, and he felt entertained, which is pretty broad. I mean, if you like watching shows, of course they're for entertainment purposes. And then the final question I asked him was kind of based on the question I'm trying to answer. Is, in your opinion, do you think reality shows should exist? Why or why not? And he says, yes, of course. And he said so because it opens up your eyes to what other people's lives are like, and not just your personal bubble. Which is very true, especially in this show, where it opens your eyes to what other people deal with. And there's many different things that people deal with all around the world, and this is just one of them. There could be a show talking about how people deal with drinking or smoking or anything else. It's not just those main 3, but those main 3 come up a lot. But it could be stuff like maybe you're addicted to, I don't know, riding ATVs or ATVs and dirt bikes. It's not a bad thing, but
could be because of the freedom that you feel as you're driving it, and the control that you have over it.
Yeah. I mean, no, Actually, no, that's a pretty bad example because that's like a good thing
Yeah.
rather than a bad thing. Because, like I said, it's not bad. So definitely not a great example. And then I'll kind of run through this other one that I came across that I mentioned earlier, and we'll get into the topic. The Bachelor, all those, The Bachelorette. Apparently, there's something called Bachelor in Paradise, which is another one. But that show, I'm not a fan of. I don't really like it. I'll give kind of the basis of what I think the show is after I go through what this person told me. So they loved it. I mean, they're girls, so I kind of figured that.
Well, I wouldn't really stress that it's just because it was a female that liked it.
Well, I know.
We as females like all the romance and the mushy
yeah,
stuff.
And that's why. And this is like a romance type of thing. Not that a guy wouldn't really like this, because I know someone who likes watching 90 Day Fiance.
Okay.
And he's a guy, so yeah, it's not, obviously that might turn people off. It's not always like females that watch that show, but you gotta admit that the majority of it is, because it's like a romance type of show. So, not to, rag on her, because, I mean, that's, she likes the show, that's her choice.
Well, everybody likes a different, shows in a different way.
Yeah, everyone likes their own things.
And it kind of could be like a little checklist. If you think about it. Okay, this is what I like in a guy, and this is what I don't like in a guy. Yeah. Or where a guy watches it, this is what I like in a female, this is what I don't like in a female. This is what I'm looking for, this is what I watch out for, so it can kind of be kind of like a checklist if you want to look at it like that.
Yeah. And she said that she likes it because she likes the drama, which that show has a lot of drama, and I'll get more into that when I think of the show. But she kind of went into, like, she liked it because she likes the drama, the romance, and all that stuff, which, I mean, I can understand that, but, and, like, some people get emotional when they watch shows like that.
Okay.
Because they, like, get engraved into it, and they get, like, attached to it, in a sense, where, like, say something sad happens, like, every Christian movie that we watch, you end up crying at the end, because not because it's sad, but yeah, because you're moved, you're happy. It's not, I don't think I've ever seen you in, like, a sad cry.
No, usually it's joyful, and the meaning, the truth that comes out, and the how you feel moved inside by it.
But I'll just say real quick what my opinion is of those types of shows, like The Bachelor and all that, those romance reality shows. I bet you the whole round table stuff that happens before a show episode is filmed, or even a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you every time a new episode is filmed, the director or producer comes in. Let's say for The Bachelor, because there's one guy and a bunch of girls. I bet you he goes in, or she, and is like, all right, which one of you girls wants to cry in this episode? All right, you want to? All right, you're with this guy, we'll have you break up with this guy. Or we'll have you get with this guy, and then there's, like, broken hearts, but it's scripted, so every girl has a broken heart, every girl gets with the guy. And it's every episode. Every episode there's always crying, there's drama, and it's like, why?
So it's predictable.
Yeah, it's very, very predictable. And that's another thing that I don't really like in a show, where it's predictable.
You like to be kept on the edge.
Yeah.
Wondering.
Wondering what's happening next. So, all in all, in my opinion, do I think reality shows should exist? Yes and no. There are some good ones, but then there are some bad ones. Everyone likes, their shows. I have no problem with you liking a show. I'm not gonna resent you or anything. If you like a show, all right, that's great. You like it, you enjoy it, you do you. But why did the ultimate question? Why do they exist? Entertainment purposes, really. People enjoy watching them, and they could feel a sense of adrenaline or connection, or maybe they just have nothing else to do, so they're just scrolling through Netflix or Hulu, and they're like, oh, I'll watch this show, and then they get addicted to it. That could be a reason. But that's kind of my segment. Let me know what you guys think, and now we'll get to the main topic for maybe the next 20 minutes. And did you get my sweatshirt? It is cold in here. See, I kept it off. Just toss it. See, I kept it off to show off the shirt, but you have her shirt to go off of. It's basically OUR. It's called Operation Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
Operation.
Operation.
See, I'm trying to multitask here. But yeah, so the big topic that we're gonna go into is human trafficking. Now, human trafficking is very serious and very
deep,
deep, heavy,
very dark,
all
dark
the
world.
very sad and synonyms and all that. So I'm gonna ask my mom. I talked most of this episode. Well, I talked a good portion of it. Now I'm giving you a chance to talk. So I'm gonna ask her 5 questions. Technically 4, because 2 of them go in hand with each other, and she has a whole notebook full of notes. Obviously, she won't go through them, but she'll go through a little bit of it. So the first question is, what is human trafficking? Because in case some people that watch this don't know what human trafficking really is, what is human trafficking?
Human trafficking is where individuals are forced into sexual exploitation, or they're coerced into it. And a majority of them are, there's young kids, young teens, young adults, male and female, of all sorts of backgrounds, and they're without pay. They're forced into it. They're sold, they're sold into sexual exploitation, and it doesn't just happen overnight. It could happen over time, especially with young teens. The predators, traffickers, go into where the kids are. They go into where they can locate them, whether it's in gaming, online, where a lot of kids are these days. Or if they happen to see, especially the young adults, they happen to see a flyer that says, hey, we can help you get a job, we can help you to earn money, we're really good benefits, really good wages, and that's a way of them luring you in. They just give you a number to call to reach out to, but they don't tell you what kind of job it is. And then they get you excited about it. They could tell you that it's, especially for young girls, they could tell you it's modeling. They get you to call that number and lure you in there, and then it ends up leading to where you're trafficked out. Or there's children that have been taking, young kids who are in foster care, who are in orphanages, who are runaways. A lot of times those ones are vulnerable. Those children are vulnerable to the point where a trafficker recognizes them, tells them what they want to hear, gets them to trust them, to go with them, and they they could end up being trafficked out. Human trafficking is a very dark world. There's a lot of it going on in the United States, a lot more than what people want to realize or see. It could be happening right in, even in your own neighborhood. And you're just, a lot of times some people are kind of naive to it, thinking that it only happens in the major cities or it's happening in other countries. And actually it happens even in the small towns, the towns that you live in. And the United States has become one of the top countries who with child pornography, and also sexual exploitation is on the rise in the United States.
Yeah.
And OUR is OUR stands for Operation Underground Railroad, and it's an organization, a nonprofit organization that works with a lot of law enforcement in these areas that the officers have been notified about some sort of suspicious activities, possibly trafficking, and they work with them to help rescue the children and the young women and the young men who are forced into this and can't escape from it. And so our family has not only donate, but we also help raise awareness to let people know that children and young adults are not for sale. That we go out and we help to raise awareness to help fight and try to end human trafficking, which is also modern day slavery. OUR has a documentary out. It's called "It's Happening Right Here," and it's a documentary that documentary. Sorry, I know.
Documentary.
I'm tripping over my words, ain't I? Sorry about that.
She does that a lot. No worry. She has 5 kids. She can't even get our names right. She has to go through 3 of our names, and then she finally gets to the one. Then by then we've already heard her. So that's documentary.
Yes, documentary.
Yeah,
documentary.
Yeah, you said documentary.
I know,
yeah.
Documentary. That's what I wanted to say.
Called "It's Happening Now."
It's happening right here.
Right here.
Which gives you an understanding too of what it's like. So if you have a chance, it's on Apple TV, it's on Amazon, and I think it's on.
I think a lot of people have Amazon rather than Apple TV.
If you go into some of the platforms, you'll be able to find that it's on there and it's worth watching, and it helps you to for your eyes to be open. What we need is more resources made known to the parents, and the parents need to be aware too, especially with the gaming. Parents should be aware of also, especially nowadays, young kids have phones. They need to be aware of the apps that their kids have on their phones, who they're in contact with, and always stay in communication with your children. Even if they get upset over it, you're just doing it to help them, to protect them, to keep them safe, and to know who they're talking with on the other end. And especially with the gaming, sometimes kids go on there and they think that they're gaming with another person who is their age. They or they say that they live in, they could live in another state and they're the same age as them, and they get them. Predators, the traffickers are very, very patient, and they'll go time where they'll go as long as it necessary to gain the trust of that teen or the young child, and they get to where there's a bond built and there's a trust, and they start leading them into, can I have your phone number? So I can reach out to you. Then they start communicating back and forth on their phones, whether it's texting and talking to each other, or mostly texting, especially if that predator is trying to say that they are a 13, 14-year-old girl, the same age as a girl that maybe they came in contact with. If they say, let me see a picture, they could take a picture of any young child and send it to them and say, hey, this is me. So they want to, any way that they can earn that trust of that person, and then which leads to, hey, I'm in town, I'm visiting family or something, or friends. Hey, let's hook up, let's meet up, and then sometimes it's too late. So the parents need to be aware and to monitor what the kids are doing on their gaming, who they're talking to, messages sent back and forth, and to keep that communication open so that the child feels like they're not going to get in trouble when they approach their parent and say, hey, this is what's happening, or this person asked me to send them a picture, or this person asked me this inappropriate question. You want to always allow your child to know that they are safe and that it's okay for them to come to you to talk about what they may have interacted with on their phones or gaming.
Yeah. And I mean, you gotta touch base on what the signs are, what to look for, like, so that people don't get trafficked. Like if someone asks you for pics, or if they ask you for any personal information, don't give it to them. But there's also another aspect of like signs that I want to get into, where it's, say you maybe go to a hotel and you see someone that you have a suspicion that they could be trafficked. What do you look for just to kind of determine and make a conclusion on if they really are being trafficked? Should you go up to them and talk to them, or?
I wouldn't necessarily go. I would maybe start like a small conversation, even by saying, hi, how are you doing? Even if it's
should I ask, like, what are you here for? What are you doing?
Well, a lot of them would be working as service in the service department, which means that they would come in and they do cleaning, housekeeping.
Yeah.
Housekeeping, and they don't like to make eye contact with you, because you got to remember, these young adults, and that they feel ashamed for what they're doing, so they feel like that they're being judged by others out there, and so you want to be in an approach. Sometimes there's markings on them, kind of like tattoos, and if there's more than one, could be 2 or 3 that have the same tattoo in the same area, then a lot of times that can be a marking.
It's like one of those, like a cult,
like a brand,
like
it's a branding.
Yeah. Like
so that
you're
they
a part of this.
Right. That's their trafficker. That's they're marking their territory, sort of say.
Why do they do that then? Because wouldn't they be able to like track them if they find? Can they look at the tattoo?
They're very close.
Say they find, they take the traffic person in, they look at the tattoo. Can they then find the person who did it based on the tattoo?
Like who takes them in?
Like who the trafficker is. Like say the police.
The police trafficking?
No, like.
Oh, if the police come up and
say
they notice it?
Yeah, say if the police bring in someone who has been trafficked, like a teen or something, and they look at the marking that they have, could they then possibly find?
Well, I mean, I think that goes along with their questioning, when they bring them in and they're questioning. And they're not going to be
I'm probably
obvious.
thinking advanced, where like they can scan.
Right. No.
And find out.
No, and
I'm thinking too far into sci-fi.
Yeah, and like some of the prostitutes that you see on the streets, a lot of times the young girls are dressed up to make them look a lot older than they actually are, and they're scared, and a lot of times they're on some sort of substance that they're addicted to, that their trafficker had introduced them to help get them to do what they want, kind of a control thing. I learned that when like the panhandlers that we had come across in New York, and sometimes some of them are disabled, looking for extra change. Sometimes those two, not always, but there's always a chance that those two are being trafficked. And when they don't come back with a certain amount of money, then they face consequences that are not appealing.
Yeah, it's interesting as that we've touched like kind of the surface of it, and we'll kind of close with this. So this says the Constitution of the United States, and this is basically like the Constitution. It has all the amendments. It has the amendments. Pretty sure it has the Bill of Rights. It has the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution itself. Amendment 13 is very interesting. Amendment 13 says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So which means that all slavery is illegal. They abolished slavery back in, when was it? 1800 something, when good old big tall Abraham was Abraham Lincoln was president. The Civil War happened, and then they abolished slavery. So according to the Constitution, human trafficking should be illegal because it's, like you've said a lot, it's modern day slavery. And basically when someone is forced into the trafficking world, and where they have no escape and they're controlled by one person, and it's kind of like the slave master. So according to the Constitution, slavery should be illegal, but people in Congress make too much money off of it, so they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to completely eliminate it. So that's pretty sad on how,
at the expense of these young adults and these children's lives, they're willing to put them through that, knowing what's going on, and it's just devastating. It's heartbreaking because those children don't have a chance unless but you have organizations or people standing up and saying, hey, something's not right, and to stand up. And then but my thing is get involved in an organization like OUR. They also have where they have canines. They have canines that they train that go in to these places that traffic or pedophiles have inappropriate things in their homes, especially on their laptops or on their phones, and the canines are trained to go in and sniff those out, even when the pedophiles are trying to hide them.
Yeah.
Because it has all kinds of information on there, or it has pictures of young children on there that they are exploiting.
Yeah, and I kind of know what I want to say now. It's sad how this Constitution was made in 1770. 1770 something was the Declaration. Constitution, I think, came a little bit after, in like 1780 something. But this Constitution was made to protect the Americans, and because they came over from England and stuff when they had a king and kind of like a dictatorship. Well, not that far, but they wanted freedom, so they came over here and they made this Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, amendments, and all that. But this is like the rule book for this country, and it's sad how it says in one of the amendments that slavery is illegal, and human trafficking is basically slavery, but they're not doing anything about it, and they don't want to. And really, they should just, the president, whoever the president is, I don't care if it's Joe Biden or if it's Trump, they should go up maybe at like the State of the Union or whatever, and say that human trafficking is illegal because it's slavery. It's modern day slavery. And according to this book, according to the Constitution, which the forefathers wrote to kind of set a guideline for the country and how it's supposed to run, they're basically denying the Constitution. And I mean, we know that the government wants to kind of take away like a lot of rights that people have, but this one has been around for, human trafficking's been around for a long while, I assume.
Yeah, it's going on in other countries
Yeah.
as well, and it's very drastic, a lot more drastic. You have in other countries, they are they take the young children and they use them for sacrifice, for body parts or for even for their blood, or they're killing young babies now for their organs.
Yeah, and according to Amendment 13 in this Constitution, slavery is illegal. Now, obviously, there's a lot more amendments and stuff that a lot of people might not know about, but I don't know, it's just confusing to me how the government is kind of run on the Constitution and they're like denying it and kind of putting it to the side. But I think that's where we'll end here. Like I said, we've only touched the surface of human trafficking. There's definitely a lot more information. So we'll leave a link in the description to the OUR website. I'll have my mom give me that and we'll put it there. And then we'll also put the hotline there.
The hotline
that you can call if you come in contact with someone who is being trafficked. Then you can call the hotline, and then what happens?
the people on the hotline will help them out and let them know what steps to take.
Yeah.
And also that it's happening right here.
The documentary.
Yes.
I mean, they can look back in this video and look at the documentary. I'll just, because I don't want to have the description be like a whole.
Well, no, but you can put up there, here's the documentary to, documentary that you can watch that will help you understand too, about how human trafficking is happening, but also within the United States.
Yeah. All right then. So we'll put the documentary. We'll put the link to the OUR website so you can get more information about what they do, what human trafficking is, more
Which
of what
is
it is.
Operation Underground Railroad.
Yeah, Operation Underground Railroad. We'll also put the hotline number if you interact with someone who's being trafficked.
And it doesn't matter if you're an adult or a teen. You can get involved and volunteer and help raise awareness everywhere of human trafficking.
Yeah, and then also don't forget to check out our Instagram as well. You can follow there so you get updates on what happens. Say if we miss a week, you'll get updated there. Or if maybe something happens or maybe an announcement that we want to do, you can get updates on there. And then you could also follow our YouTube channel on there. You can subscribe to theirs, and then so that you don't likes are good, but subscription is really good because then you can get informed on when we have a new episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is like a deeper topic, but we want to also try to do some lighter topics and some weird topics as well. But
and share is care. Sharing is caring. Share.
All in all, yes, sharing is caring. I don't even know where that saying or when the saying even came about. It's a lot of weird sayings that have gone throughout the years into the generations, but I won't be too long-winded. That's another topic for another time.
Mm-hmm.
But so we'll end it here. Just hit the square.